Hey everybody, it's Lee Bales. Thanks so much for jumping on this webinar today. And looks like we still have some more people jumping on, but it's 12:03. So let's go ahead and get started. I am recording this, so I'll be sending out the recording afterwards. So be looking for an email afterwards if you are interested in getting a hold of that recording. So today, the topic that we're talking about is how to turn your website into a lead generation machine. And I know after talking to so many doctors that one of the frustrations, or one of the most common frustrations that I hear, is that they're either really annoyed or sometimes super frustrated to the point of even being angry that you may have spent a ton of money on a website, you've been promised a lot of things, and you're just not seeing results. So if that's you, would you mind just throwing a little note in the chat box, so letting me know that you are maybe potentially experiencing that same situation? Okay, I see several of you are. So yes, yeah, yep, yes, yes, yeah. It's a common frustration that doctors deal with, and one of the things that I get frustrated by is that you guys have been sold so many things. And when I talk to doctors I work with, it's one of the other common things, they just feel like they've been sold. And so the purpose of the sorry, I just had a question come through. Is this functional medicine marketing or is this general website marketing? This is going to be specific to functional medicine marketing today. And then someone just said, yeah, spent a lot of money. I get it. And my goal today is not to sell you on anything. I'm just going to show you processes and tools you can use to implement in your practice starting today, and help you drive leads using your website. So a little bit about me, why you should even listen to me. So I have a company called Functional Medicine Marketing, and you can find it at functionalmedicinemarketing.com. And what I do is I help doctors generate consistent quality leads and develop systems that actually convert those leads into appointments and patients. So what we're talking about today are practices we use with our doctors to help turn cold traffic, or people who may or may not have even heard about you, ultimately into patients or clients, or however you define those. So what can you expect on the webinar? I'm going to show you maybe some secrets that if you talk to a web developer that they may not have shown you. And I work with web developers. I have a lot of friends that are web developers, but what ends up happening a lot of the times is web developers need very clear direction on what you want in a website, and so they can take it and create exactly what you're looking for. They're not always. There are some very good web developers that are in the lead generation space, but not all of them are. So most of the time, they're just looking for a solid looking brochure that they can drive traffic to and show you how many impressions you've gotten, how much traffic they've sent to your website, but unfortunately a lot of it doesn't turn into dollars. I assume that most of you have experienced that frustration as well. So if that sounds good, let's just go ahead and dive in. The other thing that I would say too is what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk through some slides, and then I'm going to show you actually how this looks in practice. So first thing I want to start with is your marketing mindset. If you don't change your marketing mindset, your marketing will never work for you. And what I mean by that is stop thinking about the marketing as being a cost. Start looking at it as being an investment. So the dollars you invest in your marketing need to have a return on the back end. So it needs to actually result in patients. And the way that we measure that, and the way that I would encourage you to start measuring that, is for every dollar you spend, start tracking what's happening with that dollar. So for example, if you were to run an ad in the newspaper, and you got a certain number of people who called off of that ad, depending on what your offer is, how many people maybe come to your seminar? Out of that, how many people actually show up, or how many people register for your seminar, and then how many people show up to your seminar? And then how many people that are at your seminar end up turning into an appointment? And then out of the number of appointments, how many people actually turn into patients? And so if you can track that all the way through the process, you're going to start seeing where you're doing really well in the process and maybe where there's some breakdowns. So first, quit looking at a marketing budget as part of the expense side and start looking at it as an investment into future patients. And then in order to do that, you need to know your goals. And what I mean by that is ultimately, how much revenue do you want to generate for your practice every month and every year? Only then can you figure out what your marketing, so-called marketing budget should be. So let's go through that example again. If we know that we're generating, let's say, appointments at a cost per appointment of $100 or $200. So for easy math, let's say it's $100. And you need to see 20 appointments a month to sign 10 patients to hit your goal, then we know that you probably need to spend $2,000 to get to those 20 appointments, so 100 times 20. But that comes with time, marketing your practice. It comes from understanding the metrics, how much it's costing you to bring new patients into your practice. And so what I'd like for you to do is think about that. So this is outside of what we're talking about with websites, but it's important so that you understand what you spend has a direct impact on what you make. And then finally, I would just say results are the only thing that matter in marketing. So if it's not generating measurable results, quit spending money on it. So on my webinars, I love to ask this question. How many of you have ever had a patient come in and sign up from Twitter? Anybody? I see nobody. That's so common. So you hear about all these tools, about all these things you can do and spend or honestly waste all your time on, and they don't work. And so not only quit spending money on it, quit spending time on it. So if it doesn't work, quit. So what we're going to talk about today is with your website, what actually works and what should you spend your time on. And then quit worrying about tools and tactics. So again, Twitter's a tactic. Twitter's a tool. Quit messing with your website, just making changes for no reason. Don't do social media unless it has a strategy. You need to have a strategy, understand where everything you're doing, including your website, fits into your strategy and how you can spend money and actually get a return. So one of the things I want to talk about as we get into setting up how to turn your website into a lead generation machine is talking about direct marketing principles. So in the, I believe it was late 20s or early 30s, a guy named Claude Hopkins wrote a book called Scientific Advertising. And since then, not much of what he said in that book has changed if you're doing direct marketing. When I'm talking about direct marketing, we're talking about actually taking someone and converting them into a lead or into, in this case, a patient, not just branding or getting the word out or impressions or traffic. We're talking about taking people and converting them into a patient. In the book, he talks about direct marketing is really getting the right message to the right market through the right media. And this, again, was written back in the time of the Great Depression when every dollar absolutely mattered, when you had to make money to survive. And this is how people were doing it. And so if you think back to old newspaper advertisements, a lot of them would have something along the lines of mail in this coupon to get a discount or to get a free something. And direct marketing continued that way for years, where people would exchange information for something of value. And really, that same marketing continues today, and just not enough doctors are doing it, but they should be. And this is the way it applies to your website. We'll talk about in just a minute. The other thing that scientific advertising talks about, not necessarily in these words, but is the concept of a sales funnel. So a sales funnel, I want you to start thinking about your website as the top of a funnel. So here's what a funnel might look like. At the top of your funnel are all these people out there who may or may not know about you and about your practice. What we have to be able to do is walk people through a process that builds trust and ultimately converts them into a patient. So when people show up at your website, they're not generally making a decision the first time they visit a site unless there's some reason to do so. So even if someone's searching for your services, they're searching for your services and you're competing against everyone else who showed up in the search result for whatever they searched for. And a lot of the times when people are searching, what are they doing? They're researching, they're getting information. But when you're searching for functional medicine topics, so let's say you were marketing for thyroid conditions, how many sites are going to pop up talking about various thyroid conditions and treatments? You're going to be dealing with sites like WebMD, maybe with your competitors, maybe with other clinics, all with conflicting information, all with conflicting treatment options. And so you have to remember, you're competing for not only eyeballs, but the attention for the people that are out there. So when someone shows up at your website, unless they know they're looking for you for some reason, they're just looking. And so I think too much emphasis almost has been placed on big websites, homepage, and people spend so much money on website development, but really only a few pages on your website actually even matter. So you probably know the 80-20 rule. 80% of your results come from 20% of your input, or 20% of your activities. Same thing with a website. 80% of your results are going to come from 20% of your website. The trick is to know which 20% that is. Another thing to think about is really, what is the goal of your website? So many people, the goal is they want traffic to the website, and then they don't understand why that traffic is not converting into a phone call or into an appointment. Think about this. What if the number one goal of your website is to convert someone into an email address or maybe a phone call, depending on your target market? If your number one goal of your website is to convert someone into an email address, which is a lead, then everything else is secondary. So we have to take your website and look at it in the framework of, is the number one goal of my website to turn someone into an email address? If your number one goal is to convert someone into an email address, it allows you to get in control of the conversation, to become the go-to resource in your area. So again, let's go back to what we talked about a minute ago. If someone is searching for a topic like thyroid conditions, when they get to your website, you have information on your website, others have information on your website. Unless you can capture them to continue the conversation, you're not in control of that conversation. And what I want you to become is the go-to resource in your area. The other thing you need to do is get in control of the process. I was talking to a doctor yesterday that just started working with me, and our conversation went something like this. She was telling me that she had a virtual receptionist answering the phone, and she would run an ad, and she would get great calls, people calling in, asking about the ad, asking about her service. And then the virtual assistant couldn't give answers that these patients or potential patients were asking. Nobody would schedule an appointment. And the reason why is because that person doesn't have the subject matter expertise that you do. But at the same time, you don't have time to get on every phone call with every patient and explain to them what you do. So you have to get in control of the conversation by getting in control of the process. Dialing in what these people are looking for, and then you figuring out how you can present it using your time in the best possible way. So let's look at direct marketing strategy. So our goal is to convert people who are, again, right message to the right people through the right media. So we're dealing with the media of a website. So we want to take someone and convert them from in that funnel process from a cold traffic, just a cold lead, to a warm lead, ultimately to a hot lead, which is a patient. So using this direct marketing strategy, the first thing we need to do is define our audience. And the reason why this is so important is because you can't define your messaging or solve your customers' problems on your website unless you know who it is you're reaching. So this is a crucial step that is often missed. Not everyone is your audience. Not everyone is your ideal patient. So the first thing to think about is, who is your ideal patient? Who are you trying to reach? And then most importantly, why? Once you've dialed in who your audience is, then we can work on your messaging. So your website copy is critical to speak to the audience, people you want to work with. Your messaging should clearly identify your audience and then clearly address the challenges, and then also outline the benefits that they receive if they take action from doing whatever it is that we want them to do. And so part of your messaging too is your offer. What are you offering them? What's the reason that they should call you or put in their email address? Why should they do something now? And then what's the right media? Here we're talking about your website, very specifically just your website. If you're dealing with an older demographic, your website's not going to do much to convert them into a lead. So let's say 65 and older. You start to see a major drop-off. But if you're dealing with people that are in their 30s, 40s, and 50s, your website is a great way to convert them into a lead and ultimately into a patient. So how do we use your website to create leads? So we've set this up. We've talked about direct marketing principles, defining your audience, defining your messaging. So how do we actually create leads? The first thing you need is, once you know who your audience is, offer them something in the form of what I call a lead magnet. Lead magnet can be a free guide, an informational seminar, maybe a discounted exam, but it's something that you're offering people that they can take an action to get. So like we talked about with advertising back in the day in the newspaper, they would put in a coupon that they would cut out, potential customer would cut out. They would exchange information for something of value. Then the real marketing would take place. In that case, it would be through mail. They would receive offers from these companies encouraging them to buy. Maybe they would receive further coupons or discounts or whatever, but people were actually marketed to through the mail. Our modern day equivalent of this is email. To get in control of the process and get in control of the conversation, we want to take people from your website and turn them into an email address. We'll talk about that in a second. So what are the key landing pages you need? Again, we talked about the 80-20 rule. The key landing pages are where your lead magnets are housed. So again, that could be in the form of a seminar, webinar, a download, maybe a program registration, a discount, a gift certificate, whatever it is. We want to drive traffic to landing pages. And then that's where the eyeballs come in. Traffic, if your website just sits out there, we're not going to dive into traffic today, but if your website just sits there, your landing pages sit there and you're not actually driving traffic to them and targeted traffic, then you're not going to get any results. But if we can drive targeted traffic to a landing page that has a really good offer, that has an offer that we know that our audience wants and will take advantage of, then we can create that conversion, convert someone into a lead in the form of a seminar registration, webinar registration, an appointment. But ultimately, we're gathering some form contact information to create a lead. So then what do we do after the conversion? Well, it could be a lot of things. But email marketing is really critical. So let's walk through the process. So let's say your lead magnet is a seminar. If you don't mind, just put in there, how many people actually do seminar marketing currently? Okay, a lot of you do seminar marketing already. So let's say your lead magnet seminar is a lead magnet. So let's say that is your lead magnet. Well, you would want to follow up with those people via email, maybe via phone call, to make sure they're going to show up to your seminar. And then at your seminar, you want to have your call to action to have them come in for an exam. Maybe it's a discounted exam, but again, this puts you in control of the process and in control of the conversation. Let's say your lead magnet is an ebook download. We can set up autoresponder emails where they, make sure they got the guide, make sure they're reading the guide, and then ultimately send them a call to action to schedule an appointment. And in the guide itself, maybe have a discounted exam, but always calling them to do some type of action, to take advantage of some type of offer. And you can do this on autopilot. The other thing you can do with your email marketing is what I call lead nurturing. So let's say you have people who you capture as a lead, but maybe they haven't made an appointment yet or shown up for a seminar. You can market to those people who haven't taken an action besides putting an email list. You could market your next seminar to them. And with a lot of the clients I work with, we see a lot of our seminar registrations coming from people who at some point in time entered their email address but didn't take any further action. You can send out a weekly newsletter that includes things like recipes. People love recipes. You can include testimonials. You can include articles you write. But over time, you're nurturing these people. You're developing a relationship with them. And so all your website was really designed to do was to get people to this point where you can communicate with them, to where you can develop this relationship and use your time very effectively, where you can have conversations with people virtually through email without having to talk to every single person that calls in. So how does this look in practice? Let me show you. Give me just a second. I'm going to switch my screen over here. So one of the things that I didn't say at the beginning of this webinar is I'm not a doctor. I'm a marketer. I've done marketing for years, but I am involved in a clinic in Texas in an ownership capacity. So I have a doctor that works for me. We work together. I generate leads. He does his practice. But this is our website. So I feel like I can use this as an example because this is what we do. This is what we do for other people. This is what we recommend. as you can see right here on the home page, we have two things. There's download my free ebook, and then there's register for a free lunch seminar. So when I click here to download, we have a pop-up box that pops up. Real simple, just put in your email address, get instant access to our ebook. If you do that, you're going to be taken to a thank you page. You can actually download that ebook there. It'll also be emailed to people. So a very nice, easy, seamless process, and then it'll take them back to our homepage. But what happens there is we're providing something of value in return for that email address. We get to pre-educate them. We get to educate them through that ebook so they understand our philosophy. But it's not just a big sales brochure. This is a tool we use that actually educates them about principles of functional medicine. The other thing we want them to do, another lead magnet, is register for a free lunch seminar. So when you click on that, it takes you to our events page. This is our events page for January. You can see that today, actually as we speak, is our last event for January. So people can click there, they can register. When they do, it's going to take them to a page that's actually off our site. And this is a tool, if you're doing seminar marketing, that I highly recommend you use, called Eventbrite. How many of you currently use Eventbrite for registrations for your seminars? I don't see anybody popping up yet. If you don't use it, what's great about it, number one, it is completely free. Number two, it allows you to send people automated. It's an automatic system where you can ticket them for your event. But if you're not using it, highly recommend it. So you can see we have copy here and picture of our doctor, a little bit about him, where our event's taking place, etc. And then someone can register. They can't right now because sales ended a couple days ago for this webinar, or for this seminar. The other thing we have is we talked about the idea of landing pages. So that was our home page. We also have landing pages like here. So you saw on our home page, we had a nice image with a button where someone could take advantage of downloading our free book. Here, we have a landing page that's totally separate. The only thing someone can do when they get to this page is either download our book or leave. So it's totally okay if they don't download the book, because on this page, I also have retargeting pixels. So I know that someone was interested but didn't download a book, and I can retarget them with other ads. But again, as far as the website goes, with this page, we're calling them to action. So yes, send me my free copy. Again, same pop-up. If they enter, same thank you page, and they can actually return to our home page, get more information. And so people who come in to our website as leads typically come in through downloading a guide on the home page, through Eventbrite, or through a page that I just showed you or something similar where it's for a webinar or for a free guide download. So again, 80-20 rule, 20% of your pages are going to produce 80% of your results. Well, those 3 pages, it may even be less than 20% of our site, produce probably more than 80% of our results. Here's another page that I like that I'd recommend you look at. I have nothing to do with it. I just like what these guys do. They have a pretty good practice in the DFW area called Blueprint Healthcare, and they do a lot with functional medicine, with neuropathy. But definitely take a look at this site. You can see on it that they have a slider on the front, calls to action. So they talk about various conditions. So let's say neuropathy. This takes you to their neuropathy page. They have a nice video. And there's also, see if I can stop playing that, a little more about neuropathy, and then some testimonials. And then down here, you can actually download their guide. So they have kind of a combination where they're educating, they're showing testimonials, and then download for a free guide. They did the same thing with functional medicine, diabetes, stress hormones and health, knee pain, spinal health. So again, for each condition, they have a different funnel process. And that goes back to your audience, to each of your practices is a little bit different. You're targeting different people, so not all of this works exactly like this for your practice. You have your own voice. You have your own processes and procedures, treatment plans and programs. And so that's why it's so important to identify who you're trying to reach so you can put things together, whether it's a seminar or an ebook, that speaks directly to the people who you ultimately want to reach. Let me go back to my slides. Okay. So a lot of you are looking at this and you're wondering, what you can do, what your next steps might be. If you need help with this, I'd love to talk to you. Just what I offer is a free, again, not trying to sell you anything, just a free 30-minute strategy session. We can go through what this might look like for your practice. We coach doctors. We do services for them. So for coaching, we can just coach you and your staff through this process, getting your site set up exactly how you want it, if you have all those resources in-house, or we can actually help do this for you. But again, if you do need help, just reach out to me at lee@leebales.com, and we can set up a free 30-minute strategy session, go over your needs, figure out how we can get help you need. The other thing, too, that on this webinar that I was going to do is just share a couple of the tools that I use. I don't want you to get hung up with tools, but I also don't want you to get sold stuff that you don't need. One of the tools that you saw was those landing pages where the ebook download was. The tool that I use is called leadpages.net, and I'll send that out in the email so you can take a look at that. It's a great landing page generator that's super simple to set up. For webinars, I use GoToWebinar. I'm actually using it right now as we speak. For email marketing, I know a lot of you have probably looked into email marketing solutions. Maybe you have one. I use MailChimp. It's very simple. It is much simpler than ConvertKit, for example, or Infusionsoft, something that you guys have probably used or seen. Definitely nothing wrong with those, but if you're getting started, MailChimp is an awesome tool. And then for websites, you could build an entire website inside the Lead Pages platform, but I highly recommend a WordPress website for flexibility and then the integration of Lead Pages. But if you use those tools, WordPress, Lead Pages, MailChimp, and GoToWebinar, at some level they all sync together. And so you can create a very seamless marketing and lead generation oriented website that's capturing leads on a daily basis while you're seeing patients. And then again, the other tool is Eventbrite, and that actually does integrate with some of those as well, like WordPress and MailChimp, but Eventbrite is totally free. MailChimp you can start for free before you ever have to pay. But again, these are tools that I use that I recommend. I will shoot those out in an email so you have them. But again, if you need some help with this, just shoot me an email, lee@leebales.com. The link's there, and we'll schedule a free 30-minute strategy session for next week. You can also visit my website at functionalmedicinemarketing.com. So now I'd love to get into some Q&A if you have it. So any questions you have, just put them in the question box, and I'll get to them as we can. All right, so here's one. What lead magnets, like we've talked about lead magnets, what lead magnets work best for the doctors that I work with? The number one lead magnet I would say would be either a lunch or a dinner seminar. So if you're not doing those yet, I highly recommend those. And you're getting a whole lot of value, right? Some people are just morons. They're there for a free lunch or dinner. We know that happens. But there's a lot of people there who really do want help. And if you target the people you want to reach correctly, you can bring in people who do want help, who aren't just there for a free lunch. But those, I think, they're a little more costly to execute, just a little bit more time involved. But those are probably the best ones. And then we're also starting to do webinars for doctors, so taking those online. So if you're reaching, let's say, a great market that we're seeing this work in would be like women with postpartum depression. So they just have had a baby, they're at home maybe, they are stuck or can't get out, or it's difficult to get childcare, but they want to learn something. So a webinar is a great way to reach people who can't get out. It's not great for seniors, but great for younger folks who understand webinars. It's great for people in their 20s, 30s, 40s, and even 50s, if that's where your patient age ranges fall. The other thing that we're seeing, like webinars with larger cities. So if you're in a city like Los Angeles, where I've talked to doctors in Los Angeles where they've had a really tough time getting people to their dinner seminar because of traffic. People show up 30, 45 minutes, an hour late because they just couldn't get there. So a webinar, someone could sit in the comfort of their home and office just like you are now, and listen to the webinar, interact, engage, and then ultimately you can have an offer on there for them, which is come in for an appointment with you, with your staff. Okay. The other one that we're finding works well, I guess, is the ebook. It's interesting. We can trace people to the process. Maybe they even comment on a Facebook ad, for example, that we run, so we can see them commenting. We can see where they download a guide. We had this happen in my clinic the other day. I tracked someone all the way through to becoming a patient, and she downloaded the ebook a long time ago, got on our email list. She even did a couple of things we did, like we put up some lead magnets, like a detox challenge at the first of the year. We nurtured her through our email newsletter that went out every week. And then ultimately she signed up for care last week, and we asked her why. It was just because we gave her so much value. She was very bought into what we were doing from some point in time during that process. I'm not exactly sure when that was, but she read the book. She came to a seminar. She needed some nurturing. She needed to be warmed up. But when she walked in the door, it didn't matter how much it cost. She was ready to sign. So if you take someone who reads an ebook, that it could be very short, 10, 15, 20 pages, not a big deal. You give them some information, you educate them, you provide value, you follow up, you nurture them, you invite them to a seminar. Sometimes the results are immediate. Sometimes someone will register for a seminar Wednesday, show up on a Friday. They'll, by Tuesday, be in for an appointment and signed. That's some people's sales cycle. You've probably seen that in your practice. Other people take longer. But again, get in control of the process. Get in control of the conversation. Ebooks and seminars absolutely allow you to do that. Any other questions? Okay. Well, I hope this has been helpful. I hope you've been able to see a couple of examples maybe that will help you in your practice and things that you can start doing today. Take your website that may not be producing results and inexpensively, hopefully, and quickly turn it into a lead generation machine. Again, my name has been Lee Bales. My name is Lee Bales, actually. I really appreciate you being on this webinar, and I hope to talk to you soon. Have a great day.